Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Good evening, everyone. It's Tim Fitzgerald from the Cats and Dogs studio, joined by GoPowercat managing editor Ryan Gilbert and football recruiting senior analyst Cole Carmody. We are hearing reports, there are reports that Jerome Tang has been fired by Kansas State for cause. As of the reporting of that, though, I was literally talking to a source in the know, and it has not been finalized as of right now. It's expected. It was expected to happen earlier. It ran into some form of roadblock. Honestly, it isn't just worked out between Gene Taylor and Jerome Tang. There's another step. There's another boss involved there, and maybe something, with the legalese caught it. But we're hearing that it will be done by tonight, unless this thing can't be moved out of the way. And guys, it seemed inevitable. Brian Gilbert, let's bring you in. That the timing's weird for me. That you just went through an earlier period when you had a week off and you knew where this was headed.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it was a matter of having the money raised, if that is the point. But again, the reports are that he was fired with cause. We don't know what that cause would be that would have violated his contract. Your thoughts?
Well, cause would explain odd timing.
Yes.
Right. What happened on the hardwood against Houston, guys? Hate Jerome Tang all you want. It was a respectable game. So if there was a time for anything that happened in a 40-minute sample size, it would have been Cincinnati or KU or Iowa State, right? So the cause stuff, fits. We don't want to speculate. I don't want to speculate, but more information is going to come out, of course, yes. And that would probably explain some of your timing. Just a guess, though.
Cool.
Well, you're right, Fitz. There has been some reporting in the last literal 30 seconds from the Manhattan Mercury. They are the ones now reporting for cause. So we'll see if that gets released by the university or some other people pick that up. I know that Ned Seaton did a great job with the Chris Kleiman reporting. So we'll kind of have to see where that goes. This, according to the Mercury, is because of the comments made by Jerome Tang after the game would be the quote unquote for cause against Cincinnati. According to their reporting, there is some stipulations in the contract about being detrimental to the program, and allegedly that's where K-State is trying to fight that. So we'll obviously get more details on that, but you're right, guys.
I do want to make a correction here. Tim Everson, sports editor of the Mercury, did tweet this out and has deleted that tweet, his post, which would line up with what I'm hearing. Everyone expected it to be done, but it's not quite done yet. And I just find that interesting in itself, that there's something that's hanging this up, because if you got cause, you got cause. If you don't, you're going to pay him. But I from what I'm hearing, it's either, look, we're going to fire you with cause, and embarrass you with, what happened, or you're going to just step down and resign, which is how these things are handled. It's been a miserable season, to say the least. But Gills, it's just been a downward spiral. Everyone came out of the Elite Eight season of his first year thinking the program's back, it's on the rise, and then you hit a wall the next year. I thought maybe that was the glitch. Then it was worse a year ago, and it's worse again this year. It's been a slow slide into what possibly could be the worst modern era post-World War II basketball season in K-State history. It's been a disaster with Jerome Tang at the helm the last 3 years.
Yeah, dysfunctional.
Yes.
Really, in hindsight, it's obviously 2020, but I've got a list, guys, of like double delivery topics. If I'm ever struggling for something, I'll go back and pull one out, right? One of them was going to be maybe, when did you know, like not me, but anybody out there, because it's been a while to where the writing has been on the wall to dysfunctionality. Is that a word, Fitz? Dysfunctionality,
it's
right?
It's going to be for today. By the way, Tim Everson has retweeted. The Mercury has learned that Jerome Tang has been fired for cause following comments made after K-State's home loss to Cincinnati on Wednesday. The Wildcats are 1-11 in Big 12 play, which ties for the third worst start to league play in school history, not just World War II, post-World War II. So the Mercury is now reporting it's finalized. I have not heard that it has been finalized from my source, who I know is in the know. But also, sometimes your sources are different sources, and maybe one source is ahead. I haven't my guesses where the Mercury source is located, but and that would be the final arbiter of this decision in Anderson Hall.
I think, you look at this, guys, and Gilbert, you bring up a good point as far as like, when did this feel inevitable? I mean, there's so many points throughout this season. I think the only question was not that was his performance good enough to keep the job. I think everybody can agree that no, it was not good enough to get the job. If the $18 million buyout was not an issue, you probably would see this. You would have seen it earlier. I believe that you would have seen it earlier, but because that $18 million giant cloud was hanging over his head, that was really the only question as to if K-State would get this done or not. And if it is indeed for cause, Fitz, I mean, I don't know if we want to get into that or not, but like, then that goes into a whole nother thing, because you have to figure that Jerome Tang's camp, there'd be some sort of action that would be taken. We've seen this across college sports where coaches will try and receive that buyout. And a lot of the times, guys, they do end up getting their buyouts in the legal system. But obviously you don't pay that $18 million to get him out the door right away, which is what K-State's obviously going to do. So either way, he's not going to be the head coach moving forward, and Kansas State fans are rejoicing around the state of Kansas. And, you never want to see someone get fired, regardless of most of the time because of the circumstances. But if it's going to be for the betterment of the program, that's what Kansas State had to do. And by all intents and purposes, Kansas State is making the right choice.
I agree. And this has been a wild ride. I've never seen a coach win the press conference quite at the level he did. Fans were fired up. He kind of took control of campus. Everyone loved him so much. He was on campus. He was hanging with the students and on a couch and interviewing them, and everything went so well, including that Elite Eight run. And it appeared Kansas State basketball had caught magic in the bottle again. And that was a fool's prophecy, because they just fell off the end of the table. And it's almost impossible. It's very difficult for me to explain what happened here, because I've never seen anything like it. A coach be this successful and then just immediately become inept. It makes you wonder how good of a coach Marquise Noel might be someday, or Keontae Johnson. Someone was pushing that train forward that appears not to be one of the current members of the coaching staff, because they don't seem capable of putting together a team that played at that level. I'm shocked by this, and not that this happened today, but I'm shocked by it and how we got here, how this devolved into this, when in the current environment of college basketball, he had every opportunity to build a dynasty. He had booster money at a level that other basketball programs aren't seeing. NIL money running out his ears. And he spent it foolishly on players who were never a program. They were teams, but this one doesn't even feel much like a team. It was a collection of players. Maybe you'd pick up at the rec and you should be really good, but you stink.
I like that.
I can't explain how things went this bad when you had the money to go get really good players. And you became a punchline in the NIL market that, hey, you better get K-State on your final five, so that it drives up your price, because they'll overpay. And that was true. That wasn't just something people made up. That was literally true. The staff overpaid for less than what they needed. And I'm sure that most of the staff will stay on to finish up this year. I would think Coach Driscoll will take over in the interim, but Gills, it just strikes me that it got so urgent that Gene had to do it right now as opposed to just waiting to the end of the season. It was intolerable what had become the basketball program when their best game in weeks was because the players scouted and prepared the team. And that in itself encapsulates the ineptitude of this coaching staff. That the players stepped in and did a better job prepping for Houston than they had ever done. Craziness.
So you go lose by 29 to Cincinnati, who had won its first game, a road game all year, right? With a coach, I don't know who scouted that game. The players run it and lose by 14 to the third best team in the country, who, Cole, help me out here. What was it, 10 out of 13 games or something for Houston? They won by more than 14.
Mm-hmm.
So
11.
People come at me all the time the last 24 hours. Oh, you're protecting Tang and all this. I'm just pointing out that K-State, by Big 12 standards, did okay against Houston. And that happened with Abdi Bashir and Nate Johnson as your coaches, so to speak, for that game. So the words after Cincinnati, this is all speculation. I don't know. But not doing your job in coaching and making your players coach, I don't know if that falls in the umbrella of cause or not. But the entire, guys, you could watch TikTok, ESPN, whatever you do, like within 5 minutes, Jerome Tang and K-State would pop up. Like it was true national headlines. So very different, very different.
But, one of the people we discussed things with immediately brought up players are limited in how much time they can spend with basketball. How did they get, and look, Abdi Bashir is injured, but Nate Johnson's practicing. How did he practice and do all the game prep and do the scout and stay under his hours? That alone seemed odd to me, but it had grown so dire. And I think everyone at K-State didn't want an in-season firing. That's a different level. That means this thing is on fire and we got to get this guy out right now. And that's the decision that apparently has been made, that this has to happen right now and get moving with hiring a new coach. We'll have plenty of time to discuss that. We better start putting together a hot board.
I already got it open. I got it open.
You're the man. You're the man. So we'll have that up at GoPowercat. And we've been monitoring this. I've been less aggressive with this than others because there wasn't anything I could verify. And then boom, all of a sudden it was verified. And I think they did a pretty good job of bottling it up. It did get out in some corners, but this is shocking. They play Tuesday, I know they wanted to get him out, but it just seems the timing is going to be a little. What am I worried about? The team will play bad if they find out their coach was fired and only have a day's preparation. They can do that without that news. So I don't know. I still think it's odd, but I'm eager to see the official release, which we expect at any moment. And that has not gone out. I was told when that is sent is the exact moment when it's official, because the finger's on the button when the word comes down. It is done. Boom, it's gone. So we still haven't received that. And I'm not sure anytime you get the lawyers involved, you can run into some hurdles along the way.
Well, one more thing to add in real quick, Cole. We talked about the comments after Cincinnati. I mentioned the players coaching. Also, a 6 a.m. practice after a game. This is all very fresh, very new. Fitz, you hinted at that. Like, you're not allowed to practice 24/7, 365. The NCAA does not do hardly anything. There's one thing that they do have, and that's rules for how much you can practice. So a lot of details will come out, but keep that in mind.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There's a lot to kind of look at. And until we actually know, like, exactly why he was let go, you're right. Like, all of that, I guess, hypothetically could be on the table. But, again, very, very easy for, the camp of the employee who's being fired to fight that in court. But, guys, I look at it like this. Hand up, like I'm going to raise my hand. People hate me for quote unquote defending this coaching staff. I've never tried to do that. Not a single time have I sat up here and said that. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just bringing another perspective.
Right.
And so for me to sit here and say what I'm about to say, and the fact that multiple things can be true. Jerome Tang, I still believe, unless there's some gigantic scandal that happened where we don't know anything about it, I believe at heart that Jerome Tang is a good man. I believe that. The next thing can also be true. He was not a good basketball coach. The other thing can be true. He was not good at building a roster. He was not good at building a staff of people around him to help support him. All those things can be true. You do not, as a fan, have to sit there and throw dirt on someone's character because they were horrible at their job. How many of us know people who are horrible at their job who, once it's over with,
thanks, Gills,
it's done, right? So that's my 2 cents. That's not going to go over very well, but I get it. He wasn't a good basketball coach, and he deserved to be fired. Maybe we can just clip that part.
No, you know what? I get what you're saying. There's an approach that can be taken where you want to change, but you don't want to destroy the human being along the way. And I get that. And people get it. Athletic programs are part of someone's being when they're a graduate of that school. For many people, and to see this rotting away feels really personal to Rabid fans, and I get it. That's
especially
that's
after they were told to expect to win.
Yes, and so when it falls off this quickly, there is a feeling that maybe this was just from neglect. He got that second contract and then cruised. I don't see that. I just think he didn't surround himself with the right people. He didn't have enough basketball knowledge on his staff. I mean, you've got one assistant who's in his first college coaching job as an assistant coach, another one that none of us can explain what he does. He dismissed the associate head coach and brought in another associate head coach, but by all thoughts is very competent. And yet here we are, just a total disaster of a season with just a team that they thought they'd put it together better and they did worse than ever. And I think that just shows the dysfunction and how over their heads the staff was. They had no idea what it actually took to compete at this level, despite doing it at a previous school and in their first season. They still couldn't identify players that would take you to the highest levels of the Big 12. Just astonishing ineptitude.
So there was a thread on the boards about Frank or Brad, I can't really remember, but Jerome Tang, if he is the leader of men and if he excels at that, which was the role at Baylor, and you pair that with just gurus in terms of scheme and X's and O's, it's a great formula, right? Now, it was with Frank and Brad, like Frank's bread didn't get buttered by the X's and O's. Frank was a hard ass on his guys, and it worked. Effort was a non-negotiable. We never once, Fitz, when you covered Frank, I'm not sure if you ever questioned that. If you did, Frank would let you know that his team wasn't playing the way it needs to. I think Brad probably knew a thing or two more about basketball, right? Mm-hmm. Correct? And you blend that together, and that's perfect. And now, obviously, Jerome Tang had his shortcomings after year number one leading men, right? We all thought he was a great leader, and for right or wrong, why it didn't work out, did he recruit the wrong guys? That does ultimately fall on him, but he couldn't keep that leadership in Manhattan. And you pair that with, like you said, Fitz, a coaching staff that clearly is getting out-coached, out-schemed in games in the Big 12. You know, maybe you can get by in, I don't want to say the ACC or Pac, whatever, Mountain West, Pac-12. How silly am I? Big 12, you can't get away with having a weak coaching staff. And the way that Kansas State won in year number one, let's not kid ourselves. There were coaches on the sidelines. There were scouts being done. But when players go out and make plays, and there's not much of a, the guys, this is why Jerome Tang, after year number one, switched to sort of that 5-out system, the free-flowing offense, to where, there isn't a whole lot of coaching. And it's just guys going out and making plays. And you can fall in love with your success that you have for 1 year when it all worked out and it all came together. To count on that reliably year after year, of course, in hindsight, was foolish.
I just received a text that it's still not official yet, And they believe now that in fact, I got another text just a second ago that
God,
says,
you're popular, man.
that's when I'm only time when I'm popular is times like this, that there's an ongoing negotiation to not fire him with cause, but to come to a number that's far less than 18 million for a buyout. We'll see how that develops. Maybe that's what's hanging this up, but this should be done by the time we go to bed, or at the very least Monday morning. That it will be official, but I don't see any way it's not going to occur at this point, folks. I think this is a done deal, and this might end up with some legal wrangling at some point. If they can't come to a certain number that both sides can walk away, that would not be good for either side. It's best to just get this settled and break and move on.
Yeah.
Another thing K-State could do if he wants to fight this is to reassign him. You're still going to get paid, but now you're a campus greeter, and you got to be on campus from 8 to 5 every day in a golf cart. Other schools do things like that until they finally come and say, I'm not going to do this anymore. Let's settle this. So we'll see how this all pans out. And I don't know if we've got anything else to report. Cole, get any more thoughts?
No, be interested to see what happens as a result of this. Obviously, you guys mentioned that there is a game on Tuesday, and immediately my mind is, well, have the NIL checks already hit? Because how many of these guys are going to say, if you're going to fire Jerome Tang, then I don't want to play? I mean, I'm not saying that
Not
that
many,
could be
though, the way
a
they
real issue, but I mean, we know that stuff like that's happened in the past. Look what happened with K-State football. I get it's a whole nother thing. Rejected a bowl bid after 6-6. I get that it's completely different, but in today's modern age of college athletics, guys, I'm sure it's happened. But I cannot remember the last time that a Power 4 coach for basketball was fired with, essentially in the middle of the season. I'm sure it's happened before, but this is just kind of a strange timing because there's 6 games left. This team's not making any postseason. So
really.
are you sure?
Yeah.
Is that breaking?
Well, there's so many postseasons now. Maybe. I don't know.
I'm just interested to see what it looks like and if you have any players who come up with a rolled ankle and shoot around.
Yeah, that you make a good point. My sense, though, is there's not a great deal of loyalty probably from the locker room to the
Bingo.
staff.
Bingo.
Mhm.
Bingo.
I think that this level of dysfunction doesn't indicate that there's much solidarity in that locker room between team and coaches. They're pretty short on players anyhow. And if you're a player that has more eligibility, you're going to be out there advertising your wares right now. And if you quit on your team, it's going to be noted, even if you're done with your eligibility. I think teams will look at you a little bit differently, whether that's in Europe or Middle East or wherever you're playing, whatever league, China. That's going to say something about you. But then again, these kids aren't invested in Kansas State basketball. I've said that over and over, and that's been the biggest problem for me with NIL and transfer portal. Some schools get players in and they buy in. We see it in football. They do that in football. In basketball, it's always felt transactional. It's always felt like you come here and play and put on this jersey and don't give a crap about anything else that jersey represents. This is what that's felt like. Yeah, you can come here, you can take all your online classes, you don't have to go to campus. This felt like a bunch of guys that didn't know what they're doing, thinking they're smarter than everyone else, and they weren't. They're everything they did didn't work after season 1. Everything. It just kept falling apart on them. And I'll just say this. Before last season, Gills and I had a meeting with the staff to iron out some things and just discuss. And it was our feeling, Gilbert, when we left there, that they were really going to dig into high school recruiting again. And they never did. Now they've turned, they keep going into that and then go, no, we got to get help right away. It's like they kept hitting panic with trying not to sign high school players because they didn't have time to develop them. Well, they weren't developing anyone because they were just staying for a year and leaving. And that's really where my biggest complaint was about his meltdown after the game and saying, most of these guys won't even be here. Well, no crap, coach. That's the exact thing that you've been doing with your program since year one.
Yeah.
No crap. We didn't expect them to be back. They never are, because they don't want to play for you if they have more eligibility. Well, I mean, maybe this is partly what's going on here, is getting ahead of that process. I need to look up when the basketball portal opens, because maybe they're trying to fend that off and get ahead of it and find someone. But anyone you want to hire is going to be coaching still. So nothing could be really official until that's over.
2 weeks after the 2 weeks after the national championship game, I believe, or it's a week after the national championship game, and it lasts for 2 weeks or something like that. Is that right, Gilbert?
Okay, so mid-April.
Right.
Mid-April.
That's why the May 1st date where it drops down 3 million, whatever, was just so silly, because you can't bring in a new coach after May 1st. The portal, you're weeks behind, and those are the most important days when it comes to building a roster.
Yeah, don't start me on that contract. There were some things that need to be reviewed going forward. I've said this too. Will Kansas State get a professional negotiator to represent their interests? Because this contract represents the coach's interests, not Kansas State's. The agent probably wrote this contract, said, look it over and sign it. I don't know how you would negotiate a contract that was this would disadvantage this school, this athletic department, in the way this did. The buyout was too large. None of it made sense to me. It just didn't make sense at all. But the thing that made the least sense is when the numbers of the assistant coaches came out, and we found out that Jerome Tang is possibly the highest paid assistant in the Big 12. We don't know everyone's number, but he's certainly higher paid than anyone on the University of Kansas staff for Bill Self. It's absurd. It's obscene. And I think that it was fraud. I think they defrauded Kansas State. That man is not functioning as a basketball coach.
Nope.
He's waving a towel, standing at the end of the bench. He was supposed to recruit high school players. That was his strength. He doesn't do that. I'm sure he played some role in the foreign players coming in, but another member of the staff was the one on the ground in Europe.
Yep. I'd have no problem. Well, you have to do something. You got to coach. Somebody's got to be in charge of this train wreck. Coach Driscoll, go for it. Winchester, right, who was out in Europe. There is no reason that Jerome should be involved in this picture, period.
No.
Financially, that is the end of the conversation right there with the financials, let alone the lack of coaching going on.
I do wonder if there's any other coaching staff movements as far as resignations or anything like that go. I'm not putting that out of the question, especially, with how tight the staff was, because these guys were really tight. Like, obviously these coaches were really tight with one another. So we'll see what happens, guys. I want to ask you this question. So the report, the firing for cause, what I am seeing, at least in the article, is about the comments. That is, the cause was about the comments after the Cincinnati game. I don't know how that holds up. I don't know how you guys feel about that. That seems like a stretch to me, though.
We'll have to get our legal advisor on that, because I think that's pretty thin cause, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, practicing after 6 a.m. is something we need to look at after a game. I don't know the rules, but that's something that I've been told is
that would make more sense than the comments after the game, because I've heard coaches say way worse.
Yeah, freedom of speech, baby.
Yeah.
So what night was that game? That game was on Wednesday night, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, maybe they did go over their hours with that 6 a.m. running. I don't know.
I don't even know if it's hours. I think it's just how quickly after a game, like, you practice.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Kelvin Sampson, like, I'm sure he knew that K-State was running stairs and practice at 6 a.m. Like, if this game ever got close in the second half, like, who was going to have more energy?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So.
Oh, yeah.
Can we give credit to
Kelvin Sampson knew that.
Can we give some credit to Gene Taylor on this, guys? I don't think we've talked about that yet.
Go ahead, but probably not.
This is okay. Maybe not credit's the right word.
Yeah.
How about bringing up the fact that he didn't want to have to do this. He didn't want to fire him. We can talk about the contract. We've talked about that at length. But the fact that they are getting this done, and it is the right move that is needed to be made. Will he be the one to hire a new coach? At this point, it feels like yes. unless something significant changes. But the fact that he is the one who's in charge while they get this done, I at least think is worth mentioning, because I don't think I know at a few weeks ago, I didn't have hardly any confidence that they were going to be able to make this move. And so the fact that they did, it's just interesting. I think you could say that Gene Taylor is in charge of it.
Yeah,
No, they don't have to get anything done. They're not in a mess if Gene Taylor does not make this contract. Go ahead, Fitz.
yeah, I agree with that, Gills, but no one complained about the contract at the time.
Yeah.
We didn't really, all that mattered at the moment was, did you get him? Did you keep him? That's what fans wanted. Let's not try to rewrite history. Yeah, there were some people like, let him go. And knowing the contract changed everything because it seemed absurd. And yeah, so Gene's got to own that. And I think Gene should also be cognizant of the fact that he is going to retire soon. We don't know when that is. It might be the end of this sports season. He might go another year. I don't know what's going on with that. I suggested in a daily delivery earlier this week that he bring Lon Kruger on board, who absolutely loves K-State. I know some older fans still are bitter about how Lon Kruger left the program, but he never stopped donating and caring about K-State, even when he was coaching at another school in the league. And Lon knows a lot of people in coaching. That turn him loose and start working on this. And start with this: Lon, we're not hiring your son. He got fired at UNLV, and I think he's an OU person anyhow. So that's not going to happen. But I think that would be advisable. If not him, someone else. I'll remind you that when Tim Weiser made a move with Jim Wooldridge, one of the greatest men I've ever met, and not a very good basketball coach as a head coach. When he made that move, he hired Eddie Sutton to help connect with Huggins and bring that all together. I think something like that is necessary, but maybe not something as dramatic as a Bob Huggins. Who's the coach that is upcoming that you think is right for the job? And guys, I'm even going to say this: they don't necessarily have to be someone that has been knocking the doors down at the earlier stop. In this new environment, maybe they simply don't have the tools to succeed, and what they're doing is actually remarkable coaching to keep them competitive. It's a lot more complex now to probably make some of these decisions on who actually is a really good coach. Are you a really good coach if you have the largest NIL in your conference and you make the most of it? We've seen it can be squandered. If there's a coach at a smaller conference that has NIL and nobody else does that make you the better coach? So there's a lot of layers here to hiring a new coach, and it'll be interesting to see how they go about it. But I think it's good that K-State has this ball rolling. If this does get completed tonight and moved on to the next phase of this, because you do it at the end of the season, it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. Now every coach in America, if this is completed by the morning, every coach in America will know K-State's got an opening, and the phone calls from agents will begin immediately about who's interested.
Mm-hmm. I've got another tweet here from Pete Thamel of ESPN. Per ESPN sources, Kansas State is firing Jerome Tang for cause. They've informed him of this formally tonight. The basis for the cause firing is language in his contract that references any activity that brings public disrepute, embarrassment, or ridicule to Kansas State.
I'm glad I'm not a lawyer.
I know. I know.
So we'll see where this goes.
I don't know. I'm good luck on that one. And maybe that does line up with this slowdown. Maybe they're like, okay, the lawyer's like, we're going to lose this. We're probably going to lose this. And so they went back to try to just negotiate a buyout, which I think is the better way to do it. Have a clean separation you both agree upon and move on. If they want to fight, if he wants to fight, drag it out. Go ahead and fight. Go ahead. But I think it's best to just get it clean and move on. And certainly the more money you can save, the better in this era of college athletics. There will never be enough money to do everything you want to. Not that there ever has been, but now that the student athletes are getting a cut, it's only going to go up year to year.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
The entire time we've been sitting here, I've been thinking about Cole and how proud he's going to be of me for saying this, okay? In a football game, when there's a review and it's clear what the call should be and it should be overturned, right? But they're taking forever to review it. They're either adding clock or there's some issue that, like, it's obvious what they're going to do, but some little detail, adding more time on the clock, something like that. That's what's going on here with this not being official from K-State.
They got to get the
like that. Like that, Cole?
That's good.
They got to get Vegas on the line to see how this impacts what they're supposed to be doing for them. That's
the timing of the Baylor game too. If there was one game with Scott Drew, that's just wild timing.
I agree.
Yes, I don't even know if that's a coincidence, guys. I'm just gonna say it. I don't know if that's a coincidence.
So
yeah.
Tang you would have to hop on the Baylor charter back to Waco with them on Tuesday night.
You'd have seriously, you would have Scott Drew complimenting Jerome Tang with the K-State backdrop. I can see how that wouldn't fly too well, but we are still awaiting an official announcement if it does come tonight. But Jerome Tang, basketball coach at Kansas State for the last 4 seasons, is apparently out. Although not official, it is expected to be official by morning. And if not, then it really did run into a roadblock. But Kansas State has made the decision to move on from Jerome Tang. And how that manifests itself at this moment, we don't know. Sometimes a coach will still finish out the season. I don't see how that would be possible with this occurrence, and particularly if they're claiming some form of cause. But as we've said from the very start, we have not received official confirmation, and that confirmation will come in the release because it is not done yet. In other words, they're trying to decide how many millions he gets, which is just, that overwhelms me. It overwhelms me that there are professions where the more you suck, the less you work, and you still get paid all the money. You get rewarded for being bad. Like if you're really horrible in the NFL, they'll fire you after a year and you get a 5-year contract that gets paid. It's insanity to me. It's absolute insanity. And it's something college athletics needs to look at. You're paying coaches too much. I hate to tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to see the economic studies. I think football is the biggest benefit outside of being an elite academic institution. Football success can give your school a bigger boost than anything else.
The Flutie effect.
The Flutie effect. It is very real. We saw it with Bill Snyder and how the student body grew to numbers that we're not seeing anymore. But I would like to see an economic impact on that. Now, of course, Bill Snyder's would be absolutely enormous. But Jerome Tang, I don't know. I don't know how you can justify that kind of contract that is paid out in full for failure. But that's the nature of contracts, guys, and it's absurd. But again, is that really the way it needs to be, or is that the way the agents have made it because it's advantaged them? Because they're dealing with a bunch of on the school side, it's often just ADs who are former athletes or been administrators that never really been in business. And I think the agents have been taking advantage of athletic departments for a very long time. And now we're seeing it happen a little bit in the NIL space too.
Cole, what do you say? Me and you and John, Grant, E, let's go on strike until we get a new contract working for us.
That's going to do it for this.
Go right ahead. I am going to be the loyal assistant coach who waves the towel on the bench to try and get the student section hype. Is that okay?
Yes. I think I'm qualified. Well, I couldn't hop up and down, so I'm really not qualified to do that.
Are the bags going to be on the heads of the students at the game on Tuesday if Jerome Tang is not on the sideline? That is the ultimate question.
Now, did that play a role in this? Because that was a thing.
I think it could. Absolutely.
That was a thing. And I did my daily delivery on that today, and that's not normally something I would endorse, but I did.
You look good with you look really good, by the way.
If you missed that, make sure you watch the ending. It's dramatic. I've never looked better than at the end. You can probably guess what I did at the end, but that's overall though, it's not a great look for the institution because it lacks the context of why it got to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Outsiders don't know
Yeah.
They might, but they don't feel it. They didn't experience it. And the frustration of going to games and spending your dollars and your free time and your passion, and go to a game and the coaches don't seem to have any answers and the players have no investment. I never thought I'd see Kansas State athletics field a team where it was obvious the players didn't care about Kansas State University. They did in the fact that they were getting paid, and they might think they do, but they didn't. They're really not part of the university. I don't feel in that way. They live right there in Jardine in the new apartments right by the training center. They walk to practice. They have online classes. They walk to the game. Their training table. It's just not the same as it has been in the past. It's a very detached group of people that are student athletes quite often, particularly in the high profile sports when they're getting paid a lot of money.
I'm very curious, guys, to see what the long-term ramifications of this are. Not just the firing, but obviously what happens after that. And Clint and Jacob Poland talked about it on the show you guys did, Gilbert. But at what point do not just players, but now coaches look at this job and say, okay, well, I have so many other options. Is K-State really the one that I want to go to? I mean, I think that's going to be something we look at and we talk about, but there's so many other things that can happen as a result of this. It's not like, okay, Chris Kleiman retires, now the coaching search starts. This is, okay, you're firing a coach. You're probably going to have to deal with some sort of fallout, legally or not. Not only that, you have a team that's still getting ready to play games, and you have to go out, hire a new coach, and give them money to build a roster. Like, there's so much that goes into this now that I'm just happy I'm not an athletic director.
Yeah, I agree.
Back to real quick what we were talking about earlier. Fitz, you hinted at this, like the national, like PTI, and everybody nationally was just so, I guess, confused why Jerome Tang would like say what he said after Cincinnati. I'm not here to defend Tang's comments, but people don't understand. Obviously, everybody watching this does, how bad the program was with guys just not giving a shit. And it's just so not normal in college basketball for that to be the case. And so you look at it, Fitz, you talked about this, right? You're saying, what the heck? Like, but that's where things are. And most people outside of Manhattan or that follow this team, it's hard to grasp just how, like I said, dysfunctional this program was, especially, the Cincinnati loss was the proof in the pudding.
It was.
But I'll be curious, guys, we got a show on Monday. I don't want to dive into this too much, but like, how does this team respond against Baylor? Like, seriously, I could see Kansas State winning this game, 10, 15 points, because if the loyalty was not there for Jerome Tang, this could be the coming together moment for these dudes. Of course, this wouldn't be out of the question, guys. Kansas State could lose by 30 points at home. That's never happened this season, has it?
No.
Okay. I didn't think so.
That I want to bring up. I let Abdi do the scout again.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
I talked about this on my double delivery. Abdi, I noticed looking at K-State's bench against Cincinnati on Wednesday, the one dude that you just, the singular guy that was standing up and celebrating the little tiny layups and good plays was Abdi. He gives a shit.
He does. Doesn't know how to play defense.
But he's just fundamentally a poor defensive player. It's not because
maybe with the right coaching, he could turn into a good defender.
I made a real mistake earlier this year when I said, these guys don't know how to play defense, but they'll get better as the year goes on. They have not gotten better. Mm-hmm. Well, they have a little bit, but at the cost of offensive abilities.
They got better defensively because Abdi was out of the picture. Somebody said for that.
They were a little bit better before then.
Yeah.
But again, we saw some times where Abdi not knowing you don't foul there, or CJ Jones being on the floor at key points when the turnovers happen.
Hey, CJ, if anybody asks the state of this program, if you're confused, CJ Jones playing meaningful minutes in the Big 12 is the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Who honestly is gotten worse the more he's been in Jerome Tang's tutelage. He wasn't good when he came in, but he was a better player last year than he is this year. And I have no other explanation for that other than coaching. But I think they've also assembled a team of guys that aren't NBA caliber. PJ Haggerty thinks he is, but he's not.
No.
And this is it. They might go to Europe and make a buck or two, but these guys are getting paid a lot of money. As I've said, the last guy on the bench at basketball is getting paid more than important starters at football. The financial dynamics are totally different in basketball and football NIL. And again, I just think it's been squandered by this coaching staff and thrown around and thrown away. I feel for the donors who fell for the shtick, but that's exactly what's happened. They have assembled one of the most dysfunctional and yet likable teams. These guys are they're not bad to be around. I could go the rest of my life without encountering Doug McDaniel again.
Yeah, you mentioned dudes have an apartment by the facility. I was going to say Doug McDaniel.
No, he bought his own place, so he didn't have to be around his teammates. And it's just been that kind of ongoing drama off the court. There's been more off the court incidents with basketball players during the last few years than with football players. That
coaches.
That up. The coaches too.
And we just got an email.
Okay.
Announces change in men's basketball program, leadership change in men's basketball program.
Okay.
This was a decision that was made in the best interest of our university men's basketball program. Recent public comments and conduct, in addition to the program's overall direction, have not aligned with K-State's standards for supporting student athletes and representing the university. We wish Coach Tang and his family all the best moving forward. That is from Gene Taylor.
Okay. There will be a press
conference.
And
there's the media.
At 8:30.
Yeah.
Press conference at 8:30 up in the normal steel and pipe.
Oh, I got it. I
got shower.
I got shower.
Tonight? Press conference tonight?
Yes. Yes, 8:30 tonight. You won't be there.
No,
yes.
I can't.
Unless you go 150 miles an hour down I-70, you can make it.
So, folks, it is official as of 7:36. Jerome Tang is no longer Kansas State's basketball coach. We don't have full details yet. We will be at a press conference at 8:30 p.m. a little bit later. I'm sure that will be streamed, hopefully by us, and we'll see if we can work that out. But 8:30 tonight, there will be a press conference with Gene Taylor going through the details of this decision. Jerome Tang has been relieved of his duties as of just 3 minutes ago, by Kansas State University Athletics Director Gene Taylor. Jerome Tang is out as coach.
Question: is Taylor meeting with the media, or are we going to have a press conference with Jerome Tang as well?
It's only with Gene Taylor.
Oh, okay. I pray to God. Say what you want. Everybody can have their own opinion about Bruce Weber, guys.
Yeah.
What he said in Kansas City following the loss to whoever they lost to in the last game was awesome. And if he went out like that, I'm not saying he gets remembered in a different light, but then the next in the morning he had that. Yeah. So pray.
Yeah, that was just a disaster.
Good.
And I think they've learned from that. They're not going to put a mic. If Jerome wants to hold his own thing, that's good, but they're not going to play a role in it.
So this is the last thing I'm going to say, guys. I know we're probably getting ready to wrap up, but this is I don't think this is a happy day for K-State fans. This is not a happy day for K-State athletics. I think everyone wanted Jerome Tang to succeed. Jerome Tang wanted to succeed at Kansas State. When he says that he loves Kansas State, I believe that he loves Kansas State. He just wasn't very good at his job. And I think when you look back on this, you're going to remember the first year. You're going to remember all the really good things that happened with it. And then you're just going to remember it all went downhill. But this is not, again, I want to emphasize that. At least this is my opinion. This is not a happy day for K-State. Anytime there is a change in leadership in the program, I mean, it's just unfortunate for every single person involved. These are people too, and as much as we live and die by wins and losses, this is people's livelihood that they understand when they get into this business. You either get fired, you take a new job, or you retire. And that's the only thing you're going to do. You're never, hardly ever going to stay at one school for your entire coaching career. So as much as it sucks for Jerome Tang and K-State, it is what it is. And now they will obviously immediately begin the process of looking for a replacement.
Scott, thank you so much for the little tip of the cap over there with the super chat. Appreciate it. Fellas, we'll be all over this in the upcoming days. The Insiders, K-State Insiders, will be live tomorrow at 2 p.m. right here on the YouTube machine. You can come check us out. We'll have a lot more details of what's going on and probably discuss a little football, unless there's, a whole bunch of stuff going on with this. So the Insiders, 2 p.m. Central on Monday afternoon, we'll be there to do it. Us three and Big B, Brian Hanley, will join us. Maybe we'll have someone else. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, as Big B would say. That's going to do it for this special edition of the PowerCat podcast. Again, there will be a press conference at 8:30. Come back to our channel. We will attempt to stream it. I imagine K-State will stream it also, but we appreciate you watching.
PowerCat stream.
What?
Tune in to Go PowerCat stream.
Okay, yeah, Ron Gilbert will do a swell job. I promise.
With this thingy right here. We're gonna make it
look at that. Top-notch equipment.
Look at that.
For my team. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back with more information when we have it. And again, make sure you're checking out what's going on with the press conference at 8:30 tonight involving Kansas State Athletic Director Gene Taylor. We appreciate you watching, everyone. We'll talk to you real soon.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.